Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today's occasional midweek video is a flip through of one of my illustrated journals because I want to talk about my new online class, which is how to keep and make a visual diary, a book of you. It's a book where you will record your memories as well as illustrate your present day. First, I am going to talk about the class for a few minutes, then like I said, a flip through of one of my journals from 2015. 7 years ago, yikes, where does it go? If you like journal arts, altered books, vintage books and paper, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notifications, and you will have more of them in your life. The class starts off with talking about supplies and how to find the right book and then prepare it to be a journal. After that, it's instruction. The first section is about how to use found papers. Found papers are things like business cards, menus, receipts, ticket stubs, free brochures, some mail, maybe something that your kid drew 25 years ago. He'll be 30 next month. I'll bet the farm that you have a stash like this that you don't know what to do with, but you do not want to get rid of. Using found papers will give you some ideas for getting them in your book and using them as the foundation for pages. After that, we move on to mixed media, where I will show how to use a variety of supplies. Water solubles, chalk pastels, daubers, a Mr. Spritzer, ink, stencils, and a bunch of stuff. Then show how you can use these materials to build up your page. The next section is about adding painting and drawing to your book, even if, or especially if, you think you are not good at it and the idea scares you witless. I have hacks, hints, tips, and techniques that will have you adding sketches and color to your papers. The next section is about words, adding your writing, as well as some ideas about hand lettering and hand printing. This will help you add labels, captions, and notes to the visual elements on your page. Finally, how to use these techniques and integrate them together to build up your pages. After the instructional content, there will be flip-throughs of a few of my illustrated journals to show you how these techniques actually work in the book, which is what I'm going to do next here. If you're interested in reading more about this class, there is a link in the text below this video. This, as I said, is from 2015, and it's in a landscape format with a spiral back binding that eventually let me down. I'm sorry to say. I have tried rethreading that so many times. It is a cover that I altered using gesso and stencil and text. It starts, as they often do, with New Year's Day. And these are some of my resolutions, like learn encaustic techniques, which I did. This page is made from a combination of some mark making with stencils and some collage elements from a free brochure to an event I went to. Here's a list of the movies that I watched that month. Yeah. And my shoes, my coffee. So everyday items can make really interesting pages. Adding borders, frames, mark making. This is a grid. Sometimes you get behind, and a grid is a really good way to help you make little tiny baby thumbnail sketches, and notes. That's also good because you can come back and look at those later and fill out your pages. This was in Budapest. And you can see I wasn't really good at drawing when I did this lion on the bridge. But it doesn't matter because I drew him anyway. And now I have this memory of how special that day was. This is from a brochure from an opera that I went to in Budapest. It was great. We all wore party dresses, and it was beautiful. And then I drew, this is the red curtain, which I just drew over the brochure. This is an imperfect drawing of a very perfect cherry strudel that I had in a cafe while waiting for friends. And this is a ticket to a different opera house that we visited. A leaning clock tower. It was not leaning in real life. My clock towers tend to do that. This is a collage made of different ticket stubs. Here, another brochure. And this was also from a brochure. But boy, he was such a powerful image. I just cut him out and put him down. Here is a map showing the hotel that we stayed in. And this is where the trams went, the market. This is the synagogue, the museum. And if I had not got this, just this simple handmade map down, I wouldn't remember where we walked that day. And we enjoy walking. Those are just the art supplies that I was carrying that day. It happens sometimes that you don't finish a page. So I still have the drawings, but I did not get my words down. Oops. This is from a pair of Levi's that I loved so much that I wore them till they were in rags. And then I had to make them into something else, but I kept a little fragment. This is a page where I was visiting my friend who was 5. His name is Toby. And I asked him if he wanted to draw in my book, and he said, "You bet." So this is Toby, and this is his dad. I think this was for my birthday. And this is a bridge. I was visiting a friend in France for my 50th birthday. These are just some of the little things that we had. Another map of another walk. Very special. There were baby ducklings on that walk. This is another page collaged from found papers. Brochures, and mainly brochures. And this is my favorite pastry. It's called a religieuse. It's kind of like an eclair that's meant to look like a nun. Those wacky French. This is a receipt from one of our shopping trips. It's just our supermarket, what we bought at the supermarket, but it's so fun to see what we were getting. This is from a road trip in Wales to Pembrokeshire. And St. Non was a lady from the 2nd century, and there is still what is purported to be her gravestone. So that is a really cool place. And there's also a holy well there. Or a spring. It's a spring. This was also from Wales. This is a visit to Scomer Island. And it's a wildlife preserve, so we were able to see and draw a lot of different animals. Because it is Wales, it was also very wet and windy. So I just drew very everyday things, what I was kitted out in, to keep myself a little more dry and warm than I would have been. One of my favorite things to put in my illustrated journals are my clothes. I not very good at drawing fashion, but I do like to remember the cute outfits. And these were pink brogues with heels on them. So those were just about perfect. This was some things I wanted to remember that were very special at a little bit of a hard time. And here I've added another grid. Just little tiny bits of notes. And these are some more desserts. Yeah, so I guess I like to draw clothes and desserts. Nothing wrong with that. These are floor rubbings from a very, very old cathedral in Toledo. Ticket stub from the museum. And another map of where I stayed, where we walked, what we did. Another leaning clock tower here. And some scenes from a church in Zurich. It's an old fresco, very, very old, I think maybe 11th century. Now, sometimes the pages just kind of filter out. And in the back, I have handwritten notes of things I want to look up. And remember, there's also found papers that just never even got glued into the book. Every one of my books has some of those in the back. So there we go. Again, the link is in the text below here. If you have any questions, please let me know. And until then, join me Friday when I will have a proper art tutorial. I am going to take this vintage photo album, mend it, and prepare it to alter. So we're going to prepare this for altering. Join me Friday. Until then, happy making.